What's going on, everybody? Good morning. It is 7:30 a.m. on the East Coast, and here in Minnesota, it's not 7:30. So, what's going on, man?
Oh, not much. Just excited to be here. I'm just happy to be here. It's great. It's good to talk. It's good to wake up. I usually have a really good Thursday because we start out this way. So
I do agree. I the wake up sucks, but I do like the time, and it sets a nice tone for the day. What's in your cup this morning, man? Just asking.
Just water. Just water.
Just
and you can
water.
see how much I like it too. Water. Yeah, I'm getting some blood work done, so I'm actually not having a cup of Joe, but it's all right because I am Joe.
You are Joe. It's just proper space Joe.
Proper Joe. Yeah, that's right.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Shannon this week. Shannon decided I needed a Ramones coffee cup, which capitalistic post-death endeavors just screams punk rock ethos.
If there's anything that's punk rock, it's going online, buying a mug with a punk rock band on it.
That's right. This is how you fight the man. This is how you punch up and you do your little march right in this cup. That's it.
And of course, the Ramones. It's got to be the Ramones, since there was a little lapse since when we started the punk rock conversation last week to when you mentioned the Ramones. And that needs to be immediate.
I didn't. Yeah, you must say them first. And I do love the Ramones. Don't get me wrong. And I think not that this needs to turn into a music dissertation. Joey Ramone just loved old rock and roll, man. Like that. I mean, he really did. And I think he just did it in his own way. I think the sort of the punk ethos came a little bit more and a little bit after it, but at their heart, they're just dudes that wanted to play rock and roll, man. And they found a platform and a way to do it and a group to do it. And they made it a little accessible for everybody. So anyhow, I do enjoy the Ramones. Shannon, thank you for the cup. I am using it, and it's a good sized cup. You get, I like a big mug, man.
Oh, yeah. And the handle is you can fit all four fingers into that handle.
What good does one of these little handles do? They're terrible, right? Like that's there we go. All right, now
there it is.
So this mug, you could defend yourself with this mug. So that's on a legitimate.
That looks like a hefty, heavy. That's the intruder deterrent mug,
right?
And you can slide all four fingers around, so like you could warm, and you could warm your hand. You could slide all four fingers.
The Minnesota model, yeah, Minnesota. That's true. Yeah. I haven't had to warm myself from a mug in a while.
Adam, your right hand goes around the mug and slides through the handle. Yes. Yeah.
It's too hot. The whole point of the handle is that you don't have to do that.
All right. We'll see when winter comes around in Minnesota, Adam.
That's true.
You're gonna go, oh, Joe. Yeah, his handle skills is working.
Yeah.
Before we get away from the punk rock stuff, I'm not a huge punk rock fan, but I do really like the Clash, so they would be semi-punk rock, right?
Oh, they would be my number. If someone were to ask me, they would be my number one. If like what is the prototype punk band, I would say the Clash.
Even though they've I don't know, they hit pop status with Casbah, right?
Yeah, Casbah. Even should I stay? Should I go? Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
But sort of walking the walk. They made punk rock really smart. They were the first. You had the Ramones, and then you had the Sex Pistols, and then there was some depth and texture, and that was from the Clash. And the whole ethos part came from the Clash.
Yeah. And where do you put where do you put Refused in all of that?
I'm not familiar. I don't know Refused.
All right. Later. It's later than the punk era, I think. But
there's been ways, yeah.
Anyway. Okay. So progress. I mean, you're in the same spot. What's going on with your movement in the house, building stuff? What do you call it when you fix a place up for space, for snakes?
A reno, a retrofit. Retrofit sounds real archaeological, right?
What's that?
Retrofit? Does that sound really
I'm trying to come up with what you call the space where you keep the snakes.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So this is
I would say lair. Like that's what I would like, a lair. That's where I keep snakes. But that sounds villainous.
Yeah. Well, the first time I saw that room, I described it to my wife as a dungeon, like a creepy, hey, you're going to stay
even worse than lair.
Yeah. You're going to stay down here while nobody else in the world finds you is what it reminded me of when I first, she was like, this is the perfect house, has everything that we need. It checks all the boxes. And Adam, there's even this space for you. And then she showed me, I'm like, this is like the stuff, like, where does the bucket bring the lotion down? Like it was like, so, but I'm thinking now tongue in cheek of calling it the dungeon. And just because everything comes back to pro wrestling, there's a famous wrestling school in Calgary, Alberta. Stu Hart of the Hart family, Bret the Hitman Hart trained there, Owen Hart, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho,
Jim the Anvil.
Jim the Anvil? Yeah. Natalia, all of them trained there. And that school was called the Dungeon. That was Stu Hart's basement, his wrestling school in Calgary. So
the dungeon. I mean, you should call it the dungeon then, because that's a part of your passions there all coming together in the dungeon. But we do have some other suggestions.
Yeah, I see the burrow. I don't mind the burrow. Yeah,
snake burrow.
Yeah,
the snake pit. The snake pit. I wanted to say.
Yeah, Slash had that band.
Yeah. Yeah, but wasn't there a wrestling thing, the snake pit?
Oh, well, there was the Piper's Pit.
Piper's Pit.
Yeah, Roddy Piper. Yeah, that was his show, Piper's Pit. I'm not sure. I'm gonna think about it. I might. I don't know. I might name it. I might not. Yeah, a lot of people.
Snakeshuary is pretty good. But that sounds. I mean, I don't know if you're overly religious. I don't know. Can you be overly religious? I guess so. Yeah.
I guess in how you apply it, but that's definitely a different show. Yeah, I didn't show prep for that for today.
Let's see. Snakeshuary. Okay. Yeah, I think we got all of the suggestions, but I like the dungeon. I was
thinking that for like a tongue-in-cheek thing. The big word for a long time was facility, which has a professional sound to it, but that's sort of been like
sanitized.
Well, no, that's exactly kind of what you wanted to convey, was that it was a clean, a healthy, it was a facility to do good things in, but everybody uses facility. So I was thinking the snake space, just leaving it really generic, the snake space. I don't know. So I might call it the dungeon. I'm not sure, but I want it to be totally tongue in cheek. Like I want to say the dungeon, and then when people see it, it's just like, it's this beautiful, wonderful area. So so to update it, the epoxy floor is in. That went well, and that.
Why epoxy floor?
Well,
make that decision.
First, some of it's the aesthetics of it. It looks beautiful, highly cleanable, can be mopped. It's non-porous, non-absorbent. So like pure concrete is just going to absorb stains. You spill something, it's it goes into the concrete. The other thing that I learned that I've got to still learn and understand is that in the dryness of Minnesota winters, concrete will pull humidity out of a room because it's so porous.
Okay.
And we strive for 50 to 60% humidity. And in the land of cold forced air, that's really hard to get done. Florida, on the other hand, is you don't even have to think about humidity. It's no problem in Florida. So
well, it's funny. When I went to Daytona, I actually, when you go to like conferences, they usually pump in a lot of AC.
Yeah,
because there's going to be a lot of people there,
right?
So usually the room's really cold in the conferences that I've gone to or the conventions that I've gone to. So like I wore like pants and like I had like a jacket on hand if I needed it, and then I walked in and I was like, oh yeah.
It's bloody hot in there. Yeah.
Reptiles.
I think it's the cheapness. If I were to bet,
it's more the cheapness than the reptiles.
I bet that there is a fee for how and when they turn on the AC in one of those places. So like behind the scenes in Daytona, we each have to pay for our own electricity, believe it or not. So those big halls, that's one of their fees. And I wonder if like, hey, this temperature setting at this time is going to cost you X amount. I don't know. Yeah. I really that's speculation on my part, but
you heard it here first, folks. The people who put on Daytona are really cheap. Right out of Adam's mouth.
You didn't hear that first here. That ain't first news. That's no hot take. There's nothing original here, man. I'm just repeating stuff. Okay, so seals the floor, looks nice, really easy to clean, and then I want it to be super durable. I mean, I want that, I want this to be along the lines of do it once and never worry about it again. I mean, obviously got to take care of it, and if you go dropping hammers and anvils, it's going to ruin it. But
yeah,
those are the floors that we used in commercial kitchens that were most ideal. I didn't do it here, but the really great ones, you do the epoxy floor and then you do 4 inches up the wall, and it becomes basically a bathtub. Like you can just throw a bucket of water down, deck scrub, mop.
Right.
If I'd had a floor drain in the floor, I would have done that. Now I don't have that, so I'll still have to be a little bit conscious of how much water I get down for cleaning and that sort of thing. But
yeah,
from my restaurant days, epoxy floors and everything on wheels is how you keep things clean. Everything can be wheeled out, sweep behind it, squeegee out behind it, put it back. So all of those sorts of outlooks are what I'm trying to integrate into here. So then I got a decent deal on the floor, fair price, good job, happy with it. I called a drywall guy because I needed to replace the ceiling, and he quoted me a really, really good price on it. And then I realized that didn't actually include the sheetrock and a few other things. So it's okay. It turns out in Minnesota, building supplies were much cheaper than I used to seeing in Florida. So, I mean, actually the whole ceiling was under $100 worth of sheetrock. I couldn't believe that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the sheetrock is up. That was completed last night. I then got a quote to get it all taped and mudded and sanded and ready for me to paint. And that's where the budget ran out. That is going to have to fall on me. So I'm working on that right now. The new HVAC, the heat pump came. That's here.
Yeah. Have you done that kind of work before? The mudding and taping and mudding and sanding?
Yeah, I don't like it. But
you don't like it because it gets dusty?
Yeah, it's dusty. It's dirty work, and sealing just magnifies it because you're all day like this. You're staring up. The stuff is falling in your eye. So we replaced most of the ceiling, but there were parts of it that are still in good condition, but have the popcorn all over it. So I'm scraping popcorn. It's filthy work. So I have to. Sorry, I shouldn't put it that way. As a job with trained people that have the right equipment is great work, and I see why they charge a lot of money for it. But I have to go do that.
What's going on?
Are you there?
I'm back.
Am I back?
You.
Did I disappear?
Okay.
Hello?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Was it just me that froze?
I don't know.
Did you?
I don't think I froze. I kept going. In real life, I was fine.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I don't know. We'll see what the audience says. But so I've got to I have installed. They're called Mr. Cool mini splits, and they're super efficient for like zone heating and cooling. And this space is only 350 square feet. So I have to install that, and I've got to do a little. I've learned a word, egress. They call the basement windows egress windows, and I have a window. So instead of drilling a hole in my house and running the tubes out, I'm just going to use one of those egress windows. So I've got to do a little shop project where I fill in the window with a plywood and seal it, and then I drill a hole for the AC HVAC goods. So this week I have drywall and HVAC install and painting on my list. I'm hoping. The reality is I leave for Tinley, Illinois show a week from today. I'm going to do the show next Thursday morning with you, and then I hit the road to the suburbs of Chicago. And then probably when I get back is when I'll move in. I might try and plumb the sink before I go. That would be a nice achievement or a benchmark for me to hit. So that's where I'm at. Oh, Balls and Strikes says neither of us froze. We just had a fun moment of like awkward first date moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So when do you think your goal for completion is for your dungeon?
Hopefully I can have it completed before I go to Tinley. But I don't know, man. I was scraping the ceiling the other night, and it, like I say, it just gasses you. You're just reaching above your head. You know, you're not. I'm not used to the work. Ken nailed it. It's not hard. It's just a pain, man, and it's tedious. And to get it right, you got to do several coats and all of that. So, yeah, Balls and Strikes says we got a mini split for our building. Decided to get the mini split that was rated for a much bigger area, and I'm glad we did. Yeah, mine's rated for 500 square feet, but this is cool. It is rated for down to negative 13 Fahrenheit to be able to still function in. I mean, that's how efficient these things are, where I don't need a burner and a furnace anymore.
Okay, hang on a second. So mini split. Just explain what the mini split is again. I'm sorry.
It is all right. Remember growing up in the 80s, if you lived in the Northeast, you might not have had central AC, and they hung these things like half in and half out windows, right? And then you were afraid to, not mini splits, just the window unit AC.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, yeah.
This is like the turbo evolution of that. So what they are is I mean, it's crazy how efficient they are. Listen, here's how efficient it was. Those mini splits fought the Florida heat in my garage. I could keep my garage in Florida at a constant, 77 degrees kind of thing with these things. And they're great. They circulate the air. And their efficiency rating has gone through the roof. So it actually has two components. It's got the indoor component with that blows the air and circles it around, and then there is the outdoor air handler or compressor unit or whatever that thing out. It whirs outside. So you do have to connect the Freon lines and the power both indoor and outdoor, and that's the biggest scary part for me. But I did install one. Oh, and they make these things in DIY model kits, so you don't have to call an HVAC guy to charge it with Freon. They're pre-charged. You hook it up and you go. So I really had called around to get a professional install on the mini split, but it turns out there's kind of a hack. No, the AC companies, the big ones, nobody will install anything that you don't buy from them. And I get the reason they say that, but they'll certainly come repair or work on anything that you didn't buy from them.
Right,
So like
right.
this is a thin, like I almost feel like being like, hey, my Minisplit doesn't work. Can you come check it out? And then they get here and it's packaged on a pallet. And I'm like, yeah, it's not working. Can you make it work? But I'm just going to do it. It is a DIY package. I'm going to do it myself. So that's the update. That's where we're at. And it's exciting. It's fun. And thankfully, one of the biggest details, I showed my little temperature thermometer thing. This basement actually does really, really well for the husbandry temperature. So I thought I was going to be in a massive rush to get this done and get it. Now I'm just concerned with getting it right. Like everything is working. It's okay in here.
Yeah.
My efficiencies and my organization is a disaster though. Like I can't use my sink. I'm cleaning everything by hand. I don't have any shelving. I hate carpet floors. If I spill something, it's permanently in the carpet. I hate that. I can't stand that.
You said husbandry temperature?
Oh yeah, the care for the animal. The ambience. We call it the husbandry. The temperatures for snakes, you ideally want to have a 90-degree hot spot and then an ambient temperature of about 80. And this basement makes it possible to really, really nail that. And
gotcha.
And when that is in place and your humidity is right, the snakes eat well, they're healthy, they digest well, they shed well, so they're not getting rotting skin on them and that kind of stuff. So it's just the healthiest atmosphere you can provide.
Okay, gotcha. I saw that. I saw a video. I think it was last night from you. Eggs.
Oh yeah, did you see? It was the video of the egg of the snake laying the egg. I caught it on video, and it wasn't even like Blair Witch scary video. Like it looked, it was on, man. Like I had the ring light. I had everything on it. It was good. So yeah, I got 7 eggs from that mom. I've been waiting for her for some time, and
is the shell? I guess the shell is soft. Right?
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think leathery is how they describe it, but it doesn't actually feel like leather. It actually feels like how do I describe it? It feels like a plastic vinyl almost.
Okay.
It's much thinner than leather would be. They're actually fairly delicate. They're
so if you poke it, what happens? Will it pop open, or will it or does it over time, does it like harden?
It doesn't harden. No.
But it's malleable. It's like you push on it and it gives.
Yeah. There's a give to it. If you poke it with your finger, nothing's gonna happen to it. Well, and I should say the shell is delicate, but what's inside the egg when it's first laid is far more delicate. There's a embryo attached to veins, and I think those veins are attached to the shell, but they're certainly attached to a yolk, or something is attached to a yolk. And if you disengage any of those from poking or jiggling or juggling, you're going to kill the egg. So all of it's a pretty fast, careful thing. You
and do people juggle the eggs?
You shouldn't
pick them up, juggle them.
Somebody might, yeah. I've heard somebody say they dropped an egg before, so I go from dropping an egg to juggling an egg in my mind.
And so, if there is some, let's say it was juggled and it was dropped, that it just won't grow, and
it won't grow, and it will rot nearly immediately. An unviable and or dead egg, within 3-4 days, it will be visibly different than all the others. It'll grow mold immediately. It will turn black or green or blue colors immediately. So you kind of get a pretty quick indication of the viability of the eggs, and then also you get a pretty quick indication of if you've got bacteria or spores in your egg box. So we try and keep, all of that comes from air exposure. So you try and do it you try and keep everything sanitary. You try and get them from the mom to the egg box in a quick, swift way, and then you put it away into the incubator.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, eggs are always a high. Like that's what that's what we're after. And I mean, it's not just eggs for eggs, but there's the genetic components of the mom and the dad, and in theory, those combined genetic components are going to produce a better quality animal than what you already currently have, and that's the whole idea. So
okay.
So eggs are great, man. Talk about a waiting game, though, man. It's. I started breeding that girl last December, and just now at the end of September, get eggs from her, and I still have to wait 55 days. November 21st is when we'll find out what's inside those eggs.
Okay, and is it outside? Like, there's a season, right? Is it outside of the breeding window usually, or?
So there is a traditional season, which is kind of most of us would say we would start breeding sometime in very late fall, early winter. So December time.
Okay.
And then we would generally breed for about 6 months.
Okay.
But what happens is, for whatever reason of natural processes and how much we're controlling temperatures, and the seasons get numbed or dumbed down based on how consistent we are, or how usually I say consistency in a good way. A lot of people run what they call ambient temperatures. Like in Florida, a lot of people just run just what the temperature is. So they don't worry about the heat or the cold. As far as the ambient temperature, they will worry about the heat on the tub. But what I'm saying is that blurs the lines of what a season is. So I have a female that lays in December generally, and usually it's on a yearly cycle. So once they kind of start that cycle, you can kind of rely on it. But it's really nice. I prefer, first off, it's exciting year round to have these opportunities. So my first eggs were laid in March, and my last eggs will be laid in December. Those are seasons that just roll right into each other. Troy's exactly right about those. But I also like that it's kind of year round, because hatchlings are a lot of work. So if you figure, even a guy like me, that I'll do like 15 or 16 clutches total this year, and on a average egg count of 6 apiece, that's about 90 hatchlings. 90 going from 0 to 90 hatchlings all at once will kick your butt. It's a whole lot of work. It's a whole lot of feeding. It's expensive feeding bill. So spreading those out to a manageable time, like right now, I actually have quite a lot. This is pretty high season for hatchling season. So I have a clutch of eggs here. I have 4 clutches still in Jacksonville with Justin at Pressure Pythons, and those are hatching as we speak. Actually, 2 clutches he's going to cut today. And then I have a split clutch with Shannon in Orlando. And there's a clutch with Taylor and Danny up at Chakra. They were keeping an eye on my snakes when I was moving, and we had a clutch lay there as well. So it's kind of high season for eggs and hatchlings right now.
And the gestation period, is it called gestation? Gestation period is how long?
Okay, so when they ovulate is when we consider them pregnant. And from ovulation, there's usually a pre-lay shed. Keep me honest, guys. I think it's like 20 days that we look for what we call a pre-lay shed. And from that shed, it's another 30 days. So you're looking at, from ovulation to laying eggs is 50 days. And then from when they're laid to when they hatch is another 55 days. So that's 100 days. That's 3 months right there. And you spend the previous 3 to 4 or 5 months pairing where the mom actually
that's all breeding is just pairing them together, putting them in the same space, and then hoping they do the business.
Yeah, you do, but you can time it you can look at their body shape and sort of know what's going on. You can use an ultrasound and actually look and see if eggs, before they're fully developed eggs, we call them follicles. So as they're developing follicles and they hit a certain size, boom, you would target the male. And the female, interestingly, keeps the sperm and actually sort of, speaking of husbandry, sort of farms it and keeps it alive and grows it. They have a a sperm bank, and
okay.
yeah, so then they'll release their eggs and their held sperm, and boom, the magic of
Gotcha.
life
Okay,
happens.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
How about let's talk about Davenport. I heard it was a little tough, a little.
Yeah, a little zero. It's yeah. What's the reverse of when somebody's like, yeah, I'm a little bit pregnant. Yeah, I was a little bit zero. There was nothing there. There's it was a
So what? I mean, zero because what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, so we talked a fair amount on Tuesday night. I think I attribute it to a small town show. I mean, there were probably 30 vendors. I think there was maybe 100 people through the door, which is miserable. You can imagine, you saw the lines at Daytona.
Sure.
Those are two massive ends of the spectrum. And this is total speculation on my part, but in my mind, from what I saw with the transactions, there was maybe $10,000 of business done in the whole room.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't there. I don't know if it was that town. I don't know if it was that day. I don't know if it was that, the economy's hitting harder in Southeast Iowa than other areas than I'm used to. Yeah, Jennifer was there and Jennifer's at Eerie Reptiles or Eerie Snakes. I think it's Eerie Reptiles. But yeah, I did hear that it was usually better than that. So there was a lady, I think she's from called Cuddle Time Critters. She drove 5 hours from Missouri. I drove 5 hours from Minneapolis. And she said she skipped doing a closer show to her home because that's usually a reliable show. So,
okay.
You don't know. And like, getting to know each region and market, because every town has cultural things going on that you might not realize are related. So like, what's the big run in Tampa? Gasparilla. Like,
right. Yeah.
You might not race in the 5K, but you might be out partying with the people that do. And suddenly it becomes a 30, 40, 50,000 person event lining the streets. And if you're running your reptile show against the morning of Gasparilla, maybe they don't come in. And I have no idea what Davenport's cultural version of, I don't know if something was going on that morning. I don't know if Eerie Reptiles, perfect. I'm not going to put the words in Jennifer's mouth, but I would guess, she said we sold three that day, all pet level, like normal single gene. I would bet that's probably a $200 to $300 day for Jennifer as well. I heard Cuddle Time say they did $25 the other day on the Tuesday night show. So like I say, the only people I saw killing it was the trinket lady. There's and kudos to her. She's doing it. She made money that day. People buy these like 3D printing machines and they print these like 3D like lizards and snakes. And they slay it. They're $5-10 trinkets for kids, and kudos to them. They move it, man. It's not. I don't know. I guess I sell deli cups, so it's not that far removed. I don't. I try to sell in Davenport. I don't sell deli cups. I try to sell them there, but.
What about the atmosphere, the collegiality, the acceptance of a new vendor into the space?
It was cool. It was very cool. There wasn't I didn't feel one hint of being undermined or that side's yours, this side's mine. Matter of fact, I gotta say hello to House of Hiss. They were very cool to me and hooked me up with a shirt. We did a little shirt trade. I met Jennifer in person there. I met probably 6 or 8 people that either I chatted with, sort of internet vicariously, or I didn't know at all, and they sought me out. So like, even through all of it, I feel like there was a lot that I learned, and people that I fangirl. Jennifer's very cool. And by the way, her daughter was with her, and I'm not sure the relationship partner was there too. So it's kind of cool to meet everybody, and it's cool when you meet people in person, So there was that stuff there. There was you never know. Like, and I talked a little bit about this on Tuesday night too, and this plays into the ups and downs. So in Daytona, I felt like my snakes weren't like, I felt like they were subpar. I felt like the Daytona focus was like super high end, just top notch, everything, price level included snakes, and I felt like they were a little under target there. Here, somebody literally came up to me and they're like, "Your snakes are too nice for this show." I'm like, "What?" I go to the Daytona show and they tell me I got soccer mom snakes. I go to the pet grade show and they tell me it's too nice. So I don't but I don't really believe in that. I mean, I had snakes priced at $100 that I would have taken less for. And I did. I mean, my most expensive snake was $1,500, which in this world is not very expensive. I realized for perhaps a small town pet focused show, yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it also provides engagement. People could check it out. Maybe they see that they wouldn't normally see it. Maybe they think about how they can acquire something like that over time. You can't just equate everything to, I did this and X dollars came from this. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's the same with doing the show in the morning, like this show right now. Like if I was going to hold that same mindset, people would be like, why do you do that show? You don't make any money on Thursday mornings from 6:30 to 7:30 Central Time. I don't know. Maybe I'm building trust. Maybe people do go, hey, what's Adam got for sale?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I just see it as, I do see it as getting out there. Now, driving 5 hours, buying a hotel, driving 5 hours home and meals on the road, probably not worth just getting out there for that. There's a little more efficient ways to just get out there.
Yeah. I mean, and perhaps it's just it's your first time. I think it's more important to introduce yourself to the area too. I mean, so it's not a total loss, right?
No,
I don't think it's a total loss at all. I think you're introducing yourself to the area, even if one of those 2 of those 100 people that come in the door, they just get to know you and know your brand. Maybe they look you up online or whatever and start to follow you, So I wonder, do you see like kind of a spike in followers, or do you gain any followers on social media after you do a show like that?
Most definitely. And there were, on Tuesday night, there were 3, 4, 5 people that I'd met at the show that were in the audience watching the show. So there's engagement and it's a slow play. I mean, look, before I sort of assimilated in my mind that it's even remotely normal to spend $1,000 on a snake, much less have a room full.
Yeah, right.
That's a big mental leap for the average consumer to make. Like,
you think?
Yeah, I mean that takes a minute, right? Yeah, I mean, hence Joe has questions, right? Like there's. What was when do you recall? I don't remember exactly specifically because it was probably after a big night of dinner and Cabernet or something.
Yeah.
What was the conversation when I tried to explain to you and Chelsea? Yeah, I was probably on tour playing music and we were sitting on the porch and I was like, so I'm going to buy a bunch of ball pythons and people pay like thousands for people pay Gibson guitar money for these things. Like it's nothing.
Well, I think I was primed. I think somehow Chelsea had found out that you were getting involved in this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then she kind of primed me. So I already had questions,
You were already show prepping back then.
Yes. So it wasn't like, yeah, it's one of those things where, you go, oh, well, it was a pandemic. Think people got into, different stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Welcome to my sourdough bakery. Yeah. Maybe I'll call it, instead of the dungeon, I'll call it the bakery. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, did you, all right, so you're a Seinfeld guy.
Yeah.
Do you remember the episode where George goes to a club or whatever, and for one night it's like supermodels and he has this great night out on the town, and he tells Jerry and Kramer about it, and they're like, yeah, okay, George. And then he takes them, he's like, no, you guys got to come with me, it's amazing. And they go, and it's just like a butcher shop, like it's a meat warehouse or whatever, like literally a meat warehouse. That's what I felt like when I was trying to explain to you and Chelsea. I was like, no, there's this, like, when you open the door and you peek in, there's this amazing world in there, and there's these beautiful snakes, and people are spending stupid money, and I got to figure out how to get a piece of this pie, and I know that, and like, thank God your first show that you came to was Daytona, because if you had come to Davenport, it would have been like the scene where like Jerry walks in and you would have been like, yeah, I'll see you in 6 hours. I'm going to go get a beer at the brewery down the road or whatever.
Were you able to take in the metropolis of Davenport?
No, I got to town and I got to the hotel. And if you guys know me, I kind of skimped on the hotel, so I wasn't exactly in the happening district. Although I don't know if they have one, but if they do, I didn't see it. I'm not familiar with it. And then I try and balance good dinner with proximity to the hotel. So usually what I like to do is I'll actually walk to dinner. I'll go walk to dinner. And then I'll catch an Uber home for obvious reasons of having dinner and a glass of wine or two. And then, walking late night after a couple glasses of wine in a town I don't know is probably not the best plan either.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So anyway, that's what I did. And then, it was a fine town though. I had no problem. And it probably is a fine show. It's put on by a national company. I mean, they know what they're doing. And again, repeatedly people have said it's usually better than that. So I mean, it could be an off day, it could be again a tough place in the market, it could be I don't know, we could have been up against who knows what was going on.
So I have a question. You said it's put on, and I thought of this earlier when we were talking about Daytona. It's put on by a national organization. Like, who organizes these conventions? What, and do you call them conventions?
Shows. Yeah.
Who organizes the shows? Who does that?
Well, they're show promoters, and that's their business model. They rent the space. They the math is, what can we rent the space for? What can we drive enough people through the door to both pay for the space or to put money on top? But they have to have people coming through the door for vendors to want to come there. So there's this chicken or the egg thing, and Troy's talking about it. A show's got to get vendors, but a vendor isn't going to sign up if we don't think that there's people that are going to come through the door. And if they were, if they're not advertising and they're not promoting, we perceive it as them not providing us an opportunity for a return on our investment. So there's always this sort of tension between the promoter, not even tension as negative or positive. There is a little bit of tension of, the promoter hopes that they get enough vendors, because what I think is that the vendors pay for the room and then the people through the door pays the profit is what I think in my mind. That's if I were a show promoter, that's how I would look at it.
So the people who are putting the shows together, they're not necessarily reptile people. They're show promoters. They're event planners.
They're generally reptile focused. Like if it were like Southeast party conventions, I wouldn't go vend at it. They're generally, I mean, so this promoter, like I said, and I'm not I have no idea. I have no idea if they did their work, if they were just up against uncontrolled. There's good and bad days. I mean, in a restaurant, there's good and bad days. You could be the best restaurant in the world and you're going to have good and bad days. So I'm not knocking this promoter. But they're called Show Me Snakes, and they're like I say, they did shows in Florida. They do them here, but primarily in Florida is a company called Repticon, and Repticon is big enough that they have lots of people have opinions on Repticon. My experience was good with them in Florida, but I've heard in other regions people don't care for them as much. But here, what's really crazy is there's like 6 different promoters of shows, and that's what I can't get my head around. There's all these promoters, but if these shows are duds, like, how are the promoters just hanging on and going down with the ship? Like, why are they staying in? Yeah. Why are they, so I really don't know. And I have to think, what I have to think is a couple things. If there's 6 promoters doing shows, either there is or there was a very strong market in this region. And when I say the region, I'm talking a 5-hour circumference around a radius around Minneapolis. That tells me that at one point there is or was a strong market. There was a lot of people doing stuff with reptiles because 6 vendors don't come up out of nowhere. 6 promoters don't come up out of nowhere. They're still promoting and they're still competing. And the easiest thing to do would be to shut the doors and save money if there wasn't some viability.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I just had to figure out where it's at. And I've had $0 shows before. It's my first one in a new market, and it's not even my home market. I've been focusing a little bit more on meeting people here rather than 5 hours away. So, it's what you make of it. I didn't, and fortunately, talk about ups and downs. Fortunately, I did have a good week of sales leading up to that. So that relieved the pressure a whole lot.
Yeah, I wanted to, I think after our conversation last week, or our show last week, we started to talk, and I was concerned that, we were being a little too dreary.
It was a downer show last week. I gotta say, not like it was good. It was good, honest content. I'll tell you what,
Sure.
somebody did reach out to me and said, "Man, this is just all the stuff that I've been thinking and living lately."
Yeah.
It's nice to hear about. So that was good,
And I think that's important to hear. I think that's important to hear because when things go awry, one of the things that I think people feel is like they're alone in their losses or their failures. And so, and it's just always good to hear somebody else's low points because you go, oh, I'm not alone. I mean, that's one of the things that people connect with in any kind of story, whether it's true or whether it's fiction or not. Right. Is that they're identifying with somebody's sorrows, with somebody's pain, with somebody's suffering or failures, but also I think people need to hear like an encouraging word too, that there are successes and there are high days and there are good things that happen. And after the show last week, you were like, you said, yeah, we talked, it was an honest conversation about, lows. But then you said, actually, the last few days have been pretty good.
They were fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say they made my month, but if it's all that I do this month, it's okay. I get by. So it's good enough. And I've been really, I talked about it on a different show on Tuesday night, a couple weeks back. I've really enjoyed the outlook of trying to really practice and focus on like sort of the philosophy or the strategy of Stoicism. And so I get this like moment of Stoicism email like once a week from like this he's a little guru-ish, I'll admit it. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool food for thought, and it gets me going. But his food for thought this week was like, what if all emotions are BS? What if they're just distractions? What if? And then it gives you like a challenge each week. And he was like, what if you took the very worst thing that you've experienced this week and made it the very best thing? How can you make it the very best thing? Because it's only your emotions that are screwing with you. Now, that's a great outlook. God forbid something horrendous happened to somebody in my family, or I dismembered myself. That's a big ask to just go, well, those emotions don't mean anything. That's not, that's not fair.
Right.
His point was, though, we get mired down and bogged down in both being happy and like, how much time do we waste like celebrating something that really doesn't matter, or lamenting something that really doesn't matter either, when we could be getting on to important things, I think was his point. And so I was like, you know what? All right, how do I make Davenport the best thing that happened to me this week? So I followed up with people. I wore the House of Hiss shirt. I gave thanks to the people that I did get to meet. I took the time to put it in perspective of these things take time, Adam. everybody could just get filthy rich selling ball pythons, we all would. Hey, that is kind of what happened 2 years ago. And now look what's happening. And times are tough. You're just going to pack up. That's every business in the world. What? because we didn't go on a wait last Friday night in the restaurant, we're going to close it up. No, it's you figure out, you pivot, you evolve, you iterate, and that's an exciting opportunity. And once I had a moment for that all to sort of assimilate, I don't know that I made it the best thing that happened to me this week, but it still was a pretty good thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I learned factual information. I really, in a business sense, not in a personal sense, not in family health matters, but in a business sense, factual information can't be all bad. Even if it's horrible facts that you have to face, you can make good decisions with factual information.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I have the factual information of that one time, one sample, one experience. I don't know that I'll go back to Davenport yet. I think I'm going to focus maybe in a 3-hour radius, maybe is a better sort of first focus, or I'm going to explore other 5-hour distances and test those. But it'll let me know where to focus my efforts in the future. Now, I might get 10 new followers and 10 inquiries. Hey, I met you at the Davenport show. Can't wait to see you back. Okay.
Right,
well, maybe I need to go back then,
Yeah. I think you, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're still trying to figure out where shows fit into your business model.
Yeah.
Like I always think of this, like as I was coming up, I always think of that, like the lot, like I heard somewhere, I read somewhere, like a rock band, right? They go on tour. That's where they make a lot of their money. That's where they make most of their money. That's what I've read that somewhere in the 90s. Like it could be very different now. But the album was actually the flyer, was kind of the flyer for the live shows. And that's really, touring is where they really, so, and that could be different now because the industry is different, I would imagine. But I thought that was an interesting concept because I just always thought that the thing was to sell as many records as possible, right? But really at that time was the other way around. So it's kind of, I wonder, like, if the thing that you think that is going to bring you money, the show and selling reptiles at the show, is actually the flyer for selling the reptiles on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah, there's a lot. That's yes and no is what I'll say. There's like all of these redundant sort of circles. This show might bring people to the table in Davenport to buy something. Them running into me at the table in Davenport might lead them to this show, whereupon they click on the LinkTree link down below in the description where they can get to my Morph Market page, or where they could scroll through pictures on Instagram of we're not allowed to technically sell on Instagram. So of animals that I feature on Instagram.
Gotcha.
And in that, sales pitch of what's in the LinkedIn link is, Adam's got a Patreon. Hey, Adam's got some t-shirts. We can I don't need a snake, but it'd be cool to support him with a t-shirt. Here's his Morph Market page. So it's almost like one of those roundabouts, man. I don't care where you get on.
That's a good way of looking at it.
There's a lot of different ways to get on and get into the machine. Shannon wrote, resiliency is greater than stoicism. I would say instead of greater than, I would put stoicism, and then I would write an arrow to resiliency. Stoicism is what allows me to be resilient in ups and downs. It mitigates the ups and downs. And I had to learn that in the restaurants, man. The level of treatment, especially sort of heading into and through and post-pandemic of how people treat other people in restaurants, has just gotten horrendous. And you almost can't get through a day without some sort of stoicism mindset. Anyway,
getting through the day. Yeah. Getting through the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that we don't have to get into the whole restaurant lamentations, but what's up, Jeremy? Good morning. So all right, Joe, I know you got a hard 4-minute deadline here.
I got blood work I got to get to. I got to get some blood work done.
What's the last thing you need to know this week?
So what's the highest high that you have had with this endeavor, the ball pythons? What's the highest high you've had, or what's what's the highest high that you hope to achieve?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple come to mind, and I'm not good at these like top lists. What's the greatest ever? I don't know. Brother, let me tell you. No, I don't know. So
what's the cream of the crop?
Yeah. A few of the highs are, it's absolutely feels like just total magic when you hatch an egg and there is a combination you've been aiming for. Like, scientifically it's possible, what the scientific odds are. You might even know what the scientific guarantee is. There's some pairings that you can guarantee what the high is, or what the outcome is. And that is still a very, very cool high. Definitely, Shannon's point, the camaraderie behind the scenes, the camaraderie at dinners, at shows. I did miss that. The 2-day shows, you work all day, then you go out with a group of breeders and you come back and you work all day. These 1-day shows are a little bit different. There's much less camaraderie. There's much less business getting done among breeders. So I love that part of it. And I'm not going to lie, man, big sales days are just big swings. I mean, and there's breeders in the audience that will have much bigger swings than maybe I'll ever have. But I mean, most of us know how hard we've worked in life for $300,000, $500,000, $800,000. And then you're just going along with your day, and boom, in your inbox comes an inquiry from Morph Market. And in 20 minutes, you now have $1,500 that you didn't have from a little commodity that you created, right? Like, boom, there's your mortgage payment when I was strolling through the grocery store. Like, it's real. It's amazing. And it's cool. And it's why, like, I always answer the phone, no matter if I recognize the number or not. I always look at emails. I always engage with people, because you just never know. It's a permanent sort of show marketplace that I have set up, and that a lot of us have set up. So those would be some of the highs. I really have come to enjoy the anticipation as well. I think dreaming, it's just my own personal thoughts now. I think dreaming is a fantastic encouragement in life. Like, if we think about like the anticipation of vacations, it's almost, sometimes it can be more exciting than the vacation itself, or like the build up to Christmas, or, a great concert. You're like, man, I'm going to go see so-and-so. And there's a lot of that. Like, I don't know what's in those eggs that hatched or that laid yesterday. I have 2 months of anticipation of sitting there. What's in you? What's there? What's there? Show me what's there. So those are a lot of the highs. And I'll finish it up here. The largest macro high that I have experienced, and this is part of ball pythons, not 100%, is that part of me didn't know that I would make it 30 days. October 1st will be whatever 3/4 of the year comes out to be, 270 days since of being fully self-employed and not drowning in terror or financial ruin. And that's a pretty big high, man. That's pretty cool to say. So there, that's the one.
That's an amazing thing for anybody to do, and inside this community and outside this community is being self-employed and starting from scratch. And It's amazing. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy for you.
The jury's still out on how long and what the proof will be in the pudding. But it's going to be a long run, and I'm cool with that. I love that. So, oh yeah, soak in the beard, guys. This thing, it's too hot in the snake. I can't have beards and sweat. That beard sweat is the worst, man. It's going, man. I think by Tinley time, I will be.
I like it. I like it, Adam. I'm sorry. I like it. So
I like the look. I gotta live with it though, man. It's hard to live with, man. Plus I'm wearing a mask when I'm scraping these walls and dusting, and a mask on top of a beard, and then beard sweat. Oh, talk about lows.
If that's your lowest low,
that's
you're doing all right.
That is true. That is something to be thankful of. Yeah, there's the take the worst thing and make it the best. If that's my biggest problem today, life is phenomenal.
All right, man. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's always great to start my day on Thursday morning. I hope it's the same. I hope you feel the same way too. And we will see you next week.
Yeah, Joe, thanks. Hope everything goes well. Thanks, everybody. Joe, I look forward to it. I'll see you next Thursday. It'll be the Tinley kickoff show.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Here we go. See you, man.
See ya.